The first half of the 20th century was marked by a devastating conflict that reshaped the world as it had previously existed. The scale of destruction and loss left nations deeply shaken, creating a strong collective desire to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. This desire gave rise to what historians often refer to as the Long Peace, a period of time defined by the absence of major wars between the great powers. However, in recent years, global tensions have begun to rise once more, and many fear that this extended era of relative stability may soon come to an end. That's why more and more people have become interested in geopolitics. But what is it, really? It is a way of thinking, a framework for understanding a state's political events through the lens of its geographical conditions. This perspective holds that a country's geography fundamentally shapes its political actions and decisions. And the most fascinating part? Geography doesn't change. The mountains stay tall, and coastlines don't shuffle around. This means a country's fundamental needs and fears stay the same throughout centuries, no matter who's in charge or what ideology runs the show. We could even see them as ancestral beings of their own, giants fighting for their place in the world, making us realize how small we are and how big the world really is. An example of this is Great Britain. As an island, it was naturally shielded from many of the land-based conflicts that plagued continental Europe. Now, imagine you're in a party. You step away for a quick bathroom break, and when you come back, bam, everyone is fighting. But you're safe, just standing on the sidelines, maybe sipping a drink and building a boat while you watch. That geographic advantage allowed Britain to focus on naval power and global expansion, eventually becoming the world's leading superpower before World War II. Now let's take a look at Russia. Throughout its history, Russia has been invaded by the Mongols, the French, the Germans, and so on. Its borders are wide open. There's no mountains or water to protect them. It's surrounded by a huge steppe, plain old grass, so the capital became a target for invaders. They could just come and go fairly easy. So Russia realized pretty early, if we can't stop them from coming, let's just push them as far out as possible. And that's what they did. That's why Russia is so massive. It's all about distance. The farther it can push its borders from Moscow, the less worried it will feel about invaders trying to take it. And whether under Tsars, communists or Putin, this worry hasn't really changed. So, what actually drives these decisions? Let's break down some of the key geographical factors that influence state policies. First, location. Being surrounded by water? Instant defense, and that means naval strength, like Britain or Japan. Being in the middle of an open, flat land mass? It means constant vulnerability and a focus on land defense, like Poland or Russia. Also, neighbors are huge. If two powerful countries share a border, take France and Germany, they've had centuries of rivalry. Despite being friendlies now, the dynamics between powerful neighbors are always tense. Second is climate. Let's revisit Russia. Again, they really are the perfect case study. Russia is cold, really cold. This drastically impacts trade. The cheapest and most efficient way to move goods long distance is by boat. But what happens when your ports freeze for the quarter of a year every year? Not ideal. Your economy would take a huge hit. So what did Russia do? It sought warm water ports. This is why Russia occupied Crimea in 2014. It wasn't just Putin's decision. It was a continuation of a centuries-old strategic need to access ports that don't freeze during the winter. Natural resources. This one is pretty obvious, but it's still critical nonetheless. Having oil, mines, and a way to produce food is essential. Of course, countries that are major food producers will behave differently than energy-rich countries. But what about a nation that's rich in both food and energy resources? Now that's a power combo. This is the case for the United States. In the world as we know it, no nation can be the leading superpower without having some sort of energy and food independency. Culture and national character. This one is often overlooked and it may sound a bit weird, but it's incredibly important. Think of a country's character like you would a person's. Some countries are resilient, others are aggressive, some are calm, and some are more passive. These national personalities are shaped by a country's history and traditions. For example, Vietnam showed incredible resilience during the Cold War, fighting off US forces for 2 whole decades. England? It stood firm during the Blitz, getting bombed for 9 months without giving up. On the flip side, France fell after just 6 weeks of Nazi occupation. The difference? It's all about character. Population. The number of people in a country matters, of course, but it's not just about population density. Culture, ethnicity, and religion also matter a lot. Think about the Crusades or the conflicts in the Middle East. Many of these wars weren't just about land or resources. They were about identity and belief. It's these underlying factors that can and have driven conflict in our world's history. So, when we take these geographical and historical factors into account, we are better equipped to understand geopolitics and its real focus, the future. Geopolitics isn't about judging right from wrong or hoping for fairness. It's about what's possible. It's about understanding what can really happen, and that's where we come in. On this channel, we look at global history through a new lens. We will uncover the hidden reasons behind alliances, the motivations of giant nations, and predict how their actions might unfold next. This is critical because every country is trying to predict what will happen next, so they can act accordingly. Every country just wants to be on the winning side, to improve their standing in the world. But how do you know who is going to win? You need to know who the real players are. We'll call them actors, the countries that have the power to truly shape the outcome, and the scenery, the ones that just have to adapt and make the best of it. Imagine it's the Cold War, and you are a smaller country caught between two giants, the United States and the Soviet Union. You want to grow, stay safe, maybe even thrive, but to do that, you need to back the right side. Sounds simple, except it's not. You've got to read the signs, interpret the power shifts, and hope you are not misreading the whole situation. Take West Germany, for example. In the 1970s, the US was going through a rough patch. Watergate, Nixon resignation, protests, economic troubles, you name it. To some observers, especially in Europe, it looked like America was on the decline. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union appeared stable and strong. So what did Germany do? It made a bet. It started investing in the Soviet relationship. It signed on to build the first pipeline between the Soviet Union and Western Europe. A direct line of energy from east to west. The US was furious. They saw it as a dangerous dependency, a crack in the Western alliance. But from Germany's perspective, it looked like a smart move at the time. They thought they were picking the winner. We know how that went. You see, countries don't act out of loyalty, friendship, or even shared values. They act out of self-interest. Germany is just one example, but really every country does this. They back whoever benefits them the most at the time. Alliances? Not permanent. Ideals? Flexible. Ethics and morals? Those are for people, not nations. What is permanent are national interests, and countries will always act in ways that serve their national interests. That's the essence of Realpolitik, a way of understanding global politics by looking at what countries need, not what they say, or even what ideology they have. And once you start thinking this way, a lot of confusing decisions suddenly start to make a lot more sense. Take, for example, one of the boldest strategic moves the US made during the Cold War. They allied with China. Yes, a communist country to help beat another communist country. And China? They weren't bothered by cozying up to a capitalist superpower. Why? Because it helped them grow their influence. It was a win-win, and it was the best decision they could have done at the time. Ideologies weren't important. Power came first. That's Realpolitik in action. And with this, it's like we put on a new pair of lenses, and suddenly we can see the world for what it really is. On this channel, we are going to dig deeper into each of these cases and more, piece by piece, and break down the world around us. The real world. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.